More than 223,000 people have cast their ballots during the first 3 days of early voting, and there appears to be a surge of older voters. They are outnumbering younger New Yorkers, who helped propel Zohran Mamdani to his dominant win over Andrew Cuomo in the Democratic primary. Zohran Mamdani all smiles as he appeared on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart Monday night, confident his legion of 90,000 volunteers will bring him to victory over the finish line, despite a new poll showing Andrew Cuomo surging.
Making buses faster, free delivering universal child care. These are not just slogans.
Right.
These are commitments.
Is Zohran losing? What's happening? He's not, but so far the early numbers that have come out do not look too good. Okay? And we're going to talk about that. It's not because this is CBS. There is certainly a little bit of validity, so much so that even the Zohran campaign itself has actually used this as an opportunity to spark the light under the asses of a lot of people. Okay. They also put out a press notification saying Cuomo's cut our lead in half from 20 to 10. And a lot of older people are voting in the early voting. The early voting numbers look crazy. Okay. They're like 5xing previous early voting numbers. And unfortunately for Zohran, the early voting numbers off of demographics are 55 plus year olds that favor Cuomo over Zohran. Now, they favor Cuomo over Zohran by a small margin. Okay. They favor Cuomo over Zohran in the 55 plus demographic over like oftentimes around like 4 points. Having said that, it's still a cause for concern. The socialist labeling is one of the biggest uphill battles that will always work against the progressive. I don't think it's the socialist label. I think it's more so just straightforward racism. I think the mailers and the flyers and presenting Zohran as like this scary threat to New York that's going to do 9/11 10 times over if he becomes mayor is working with the boomers, with the white boomers, and not even just the white boomers, with the black boomers and brown boomers as well. Mike from PA told me that younger people vote late into early voting, so you see a bias towards higher age early in early voting. Sure. But you have to understand, like, a lot of us look to that stuff and instantly think, this is gross, right? This is gross. This is racist. This is. But what we consider to be many older people do not. Many older people say, oh my God, this is terrifying. Okay. There are numerous factors in here that must be considered. I think people's tendency to be duped by the algorithm plays a role in this as well. After all, I just spent the last 30 minutes covering people who are our age coming in here to be like, I just saw that you're quitting on TikTok. Why the is that a thing? Right? It kind of feels like people do have a tendency to be duped. For all the people that have come in here to check on their own, I'm sure there are tens of thousands of people who just made up their minds that I had actually quit. You know, I do think what's funny about this is that a lot of Zohran's policies unironically help the old. Like when you look at rent stabilized housing, like it's people that were lucky enough to get into rent stabilized housing and stayed there for many, many years. So it's like working old folk. And even then, who knows if they receive that message. Meanwhile, you know who is anti-old? Andrew Cuomo. He slaughtered the old of New York during COVID.
And when we deliver them here in New York City, it will be also the delivery of a politics that can actually aspire for more than what you're living through.
The new Suffolk University poll has Mamdani at 44, Cuomo 34, Curtis Sliwa 11. Cuomo has been closing the gap. Mamdani had a 20-point lead in the poll back in September.
I feel very good because New Yorkers, at the end of the day, they want
a mayor who can do the job.
But can Cuomo make up 10 points in 8 days with people already voting?
Polls can change in a second, and I expect there'll be a couple, maybe one or two more that might show it's back to 20 or might show it's down to 5. So it's a pretty volatile race. But certainly this is as close as he's gotten.
Early voters have been coming out in record numbers. At the end of day 3, more than 223,000 have already cast a ballot, with Brooklyn and Manhattan leading the way.
We have unprecedented early turnout. Some of that obviously is because I'm running as the only Republican. So let the people determine who becomes the next mayor.
And according to the latest poll, about 7% of those surveyed say they remain undecided. Reporting live from Jackson Heights, Queens, Christina Fan, CBS News, New York.
Christina, thank you.
It is mind-boggling to me that for boomers, I mean, if the fear-mongering coming from CBS News remains, okay, then boomers don't want any policy. They just don't want a brown guy, okay? They just straight up are like, oh, what are the policies that this guy's offering? Fast and free buses, rent freeze for rent stabilized units in New York, universal child care, a tax on the super wealthy potentially. Okay, great. What's the other side offering? I'm not brown and Muslim. I also may or may not have raped a cop, and also am responsible for killing many of your friends. But guess what? I'm not a Mohammedan, and I don't like 9/11, whereas Zohran clearly loves it. After all, he is brown and Muslim. He is Mohammedan. My opponent, ladies and gentlemen, of the elderly, is very much a Muslim man who would like to do the Islamic Caliphate. And every boomer's like, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is the best. This is, well, you sold me. You sold me. It's just crazy because like, I don't know. It's hard not to feel discouraged. Mamdani voters overwhelmingly say they're voting for him, but a huge chunk of Cuomo voters say they're mainly voting against Mamdani. 40% of Cuomo voters are voting for Cuomo, and 40% are voting against Mamdani. Whereas for Mamdani, 80% of voters are voting for Mamdani, and only 15% are voting against Cuomo. And no, it's not because they Googled Hasan Piker 9/11 chatters. I am utterly irrelevant in the grand scheme of things, okay? This is what I was trying to explain to you. Hasan Piker 9/11 is not a banger. What's a banger is constantly reminding people that Zohran is a Muslim person and consistently hitting him on the lines of, he's Muslim, he's Muslim. Remember how Muslim he is. Remember, Muslims did 9/11. Have you not seen the attack ads, especially on Twitter? Everywhere you look, they just go, he's eating with his hands. He's eating rice with his hands. He's Muslim. He's scary Muslim terrorist. If Zohran was a white guy, if Zohran was a white dude, okay, and his name was Jedediah, okay, do you think any of that shit would work against him? No. Look at Grant Plattner. Grant Plattner had a goddamn totem cough on his chest. The f are we talking about? White people literally see a dude who went on 3 tours, who then signed up to be like an embassy security guy for Blackwater, who had a totem cough on his chest and go, oh, that's a corked up white boy. I'm on board. Let's go. Zohran doesn't have any of that shit, and yet gets yelled at about his anti-Semitism non-stop. Hasan Piker 9/11. Yeah, the last time that popped off was July. It was August of 2019 when I said what I said, ironically enough, and I got a lot of media coverage over it. Do you think Zohran would get benefit from getting a Nazi tattoo? No, because Zohran isn't white. That's my point. Zohran isn't white. Graham Plattner is literally doing town halls in towns in Maine that have like 2,000 people population total, with like 700 people. So like he's literally currently doing town halls where half the population of the town are at the town hall. Ain't nobody gives a whiteness is a superpower. Being white is so OP. Being a white man, oh my God, is the most overpowered I'm making a comparison between Zohran Mamdani, who has a unblemished, unvarnished track record and has great policies, and yet people seemingly still can't overcome the fact that he's brown. Okay? That's it. That's it. I've seen a bunch of people declare this to be a devastating blow for Mamdani, but October, yeah, I mean, I talked about this as well. But October polls show Cuomo only has a 4-point average lead among older voters. In Suffolk County, 55 to 64, Cuomo plus 3, 65 plus, Cuomo plus 4. For 65 plus, Cuomo's lead against Mamdani for 65 plus year old voters is a 0.1 on the AARP poll. For Fox News, 65 plus goes to Cuomo by plus 10. Okay, that's the most like devastating poll. And no, just because it's Fox News doesn't mean that they're not a reputable pollster. They are a reputable pollster. They are a reputable pollster. Don't get sidetracked here by Fox News. Quinnipiac says for 65 plus, Cuomo has a plus 4 lead. Okay? This, to me, is actually devastating for Cuomo. Cuomo should be cleaning up the New York olds, right? Name recognition, a tendency to overlook all of the past that Andrew Cuomo has done. Andrew Cuomo is exactly the type of person that like New York olds would vote for. So the very fact that he's only got a plus 4 lead on the 65 plus line is crazy. It's so crazy that it makes me feel like he already killed all of his voters. And that's the reason why he's only got a plus 4 lead on 65 plus. Because on the other side, when you go back beyond 55, when you go to like 35 to 18 category, it's not even a question. But of course, there is a lot more mobilization for the olds. Old people love voting. Young people don't love voting. Young people are hard to get out to vote. Does this mean that voters will like the young voters will actually turn out in numbers necessary to overcome the olds? We shall see. My actual issue with this is Mamdani needs a mandate because without it, the sharks will smell the blood in the water. No, I mean, it's fine. It is mandate or not. Mamdani victory here is fantastic. It's phenomenal. Okay. Mike from PA said the older voters tended to vote in the first days of the early voting, while younger early voters tend to vote in the later part of the early voting periods. I trust Michael from Pennsylvania, especially when it comes to elections. He has a pretty good understanding of this stuff. I don't think it's copium for people who think like, you know, he's coping or whatever, or it's no longer Cuomo over. It's Zohran over. People who are saying we're cooked off the first sign of bad news at PTSD. It's understandable why people have PTSD in this situation. Okay. If you are a part of the left, you probably have developed an understanding that in most circumstances, every single force of capital will be against you, as we have seen in this election. Okay. And people are unfortunately malleable. Okay. People are unfortunately malleable. They are endlessly persuadable, especially when it comes to racialized sentiment and things of that nature. They very clearly respond to it. This was a factor in Kamala Harris's election chances as well, certainly. Not the most consequential factor, but the factor that made all of her negative qualities come across as irredeemable. Okay? And the same goes for Zohran. Despite having an unvarnished track record and has maintained tremendous messaging discipline over the key policies that he wants to implement, there are still plenty of people who can't get over the notion that, you know, you're going to have a Muslim mayor. Oh my God, that's terrifying. And I'm not just saying that. I'm not just saying that because of the Islamophobic. The reason why I'm saying that is because that's the only. That is the only thing that Cuomo has been attacking him on. Okay, that's the only thing. That's it. They've attacked him on nothing other than the fact that he is Muslim in the last 2 weeks. This is what's happening with boomers in New York City. Yeah, this is the classic. But here,
9/11 was bad.
I agree with that. What are your plans for cleaning up our environment?
9/11.
What about our traffic problem?
9/11.
we like to think that we're so brilliant, we're so smart, and we're not susceptible to propaganda. But honestly, people are by and large very stupid. And I think we forget that this is not some concerted anti-Muslim hatred. It's totally banal. They saw a Fox News segment, don't care about following the race or politics, and go spend 5 minutes to vote for some dude who has a familiar name. And that's like 95% of people. Yes. For a lot of people, that's what it takes. No one is immune to propaganda. No one. What is this? After getting busted in a lie, his aunt wasn't even in New York City during 9/11, and who doesn't wear a hijab? Zohran now says it was a distant cousin, not his aunt, who was afraid to wear a hijab in 9/11 in New York City because of 9/11. Oops. My aunt is my cousin. Leftist talking points collapse. This is what I mean. Like, this is not a real story, but it doesn't fucking matter. And by that, I don't mean like Zohran is faking it. I'm saying like all of the anger towards this anecdote, okay? All of the anger and animosity directed towards this anecdote is because it's a real anecdote that many Muslims have experienced in the aftermath of 9/11, and these guys hate that shit. They don't want to hear it at all. Okay? So their gotcha is a dude calling a distant relative an auntie, okay? As opposed to saying like my dad's distant cousin. How do you explain that to people? How do you explain that to white people? I guess like white people don't do that. They don't like consider other familial relatives aunties, you know? Like think about how much people are overlooking Andrew Cuomo's faults and failures, and think about how much of a bigger story they are desperately trying to make this. And it hasn't stopped. Like the New York Times literally worked with a white supremacist, race realist guy that is like popping on TikTok to say that Zohran had actually lied on his college application for a university that he didn't even go to. Like that was months ago. That was the story. So they've been at it. The New York Times has been at it. They haven't stopped. I need you to understand, New York Times is supposed to be either unbiased in this regard or kind of liberal adjacent. And yet, for some reason, they hammered that super hard early on. It didn't work, but that didn't stop them. This is not only a anecdote that every single Muslim has had, like a similar experience, where they have someone who's like a distant or immediate relative or themselves have experienced this. Okay, this is a very common experience, but God forbid you bring it up. Everyone will chop that shit up into oblivion and try to act as though you're lying about it.
Is that a blood relative? Mm-hmm. Yes, I was speaking about my aunt. I was speaking about Zerafui, my father's cousin, who sadly passed away a few years ago. And for the takeaway from my more than 10-minute address about Islamophobia in this race and in this city to be the question of my aunt tells you everything about Andrew Cuomo and his inability to reckon with a crisis of his own.
Yeah, he says my father's cousin. That's who I was referencing as an aunt. And Ted Cruz, of course, didn't even listen to it. Oops, my aunt is my cousin. Leftist talking points collapse. 44,000 likes. Do you think this is organic? I don't. I don't think this is organic at all. I'm sorry. I have seen a metric ton more Islamophobia than ever before since the ceasefire. Okay. And it is being directed. It is being directed at Zohran aggressively. Yeah, see, breaking. It has been revealed that the aunt Zohran Mamdani shed fake tears over, claiming she stopped riding the subway after 9/11 because she didn't feel safe wearing her hijab. Neither wore a hijab nor lived in New York City at the time she lived in Tanzania. 124,000 likes, 6.7 million views. It's insane, brother. How is this driving discourse? How is this driving discourse, man? 6.7 million views. There are 100K plus likes on any given Islamophobic tweet, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's just who the demographic of Twitter is nowadays. There's two things at play here. One, the anti-Zohran bots are out, okay? The anti-Zohran bots are out. Problem is, botting does work in terms of shaping public discourse and public attitudes. When you see something go buck wild on Twitter, even if you're a normal human being, it actually has a tendency to shape your perspective. Okay? It has a tendency to shape your perspective. You go, wow, a lot of people believe this. Maybe this is actually up. Okay? And the same goes for not just the, where are you going? Kaya, where are you going? Oh, God. Uh-oh. Hello. Place. Kaya, place. Abuse. Dog abuse. Dog abuse. Two things I think are important to factor here is, number one, I said this already with the City Hall Bureau Chief for New York Times, Emma G. Fitzsimmons, talking about Zohran Mamdani is pressed on La Mega Radio if he lied when he said his aunt stopped taking the subway after September 11th attacks. Mamdani said, it's not a lie. My father's cousin is my aunt. He said that was how he referred to her growing up. To which I said, this is turning into an Obama tan suit level controversy. Now, the thing is, the tan suit is stupid. In hindsight, we look back at it and we point to it as like a silly a point of controversy, or the Dijon mustard controversy. Like Obama famously was yelled at for shit like that. Okay, as opposed to valid reasons to criticize him, which everyone obviously had universal consensus over, like extrajudicial killings in the drone war and things of that nature. But they hit him with like the dumbest shit. But while it was happening, that was a big point of contention. It's virtually impossible to explain to people now that was a mover, man. That was a mover and shaker. Like, people actually unironically would talk about how unpresidential it was that Obama was wearing a tan suit, or how elitist and out of touch and entitled he was for demanding Dijon mustard, or the fact that he wasn't a real American, the fact that he actually faked his birth certificate. In your stream with him, he broadly used uncle or aunt for elderly people. This is so silly. I know. And the other thing that's going on here, obviously, is that, yeah, and they're doing it. Like, they're openly doing it. Eric Doherty, just in 2 major American cities, about to elect Muslim communists as mayor. Unreal. The consequences of being legally invaded. These cities are dooming themselves. 51,000 likes. And now with the purchase of TikTok, they can hammer on these messages over and over and over again until it sticks. Meanwhile, messages like this, even though Ted Cruz misread, or Ted Cruz just simply read this and didn't even listen to the video, okay, and is dunking on Zohran, gets 45,000 likes. Van's response, honestly, the fact that y'all don't get this auntie cousin thing just tells me that you guys are super elite, non-regular family having people. This is truly insanely ridiculous. Only 6,000 likes. That's it. Random moment from your stream where he broadly uses uncle.
How are we going to get people out? They were actually uncles from, not just from Queens, Bronx.
All the uncles got together.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no. You're a star.
Yeah. It's so stupid, man. And even white boys do it too nowadays, especially with like the TikTok, especially with like TikTok making it more, TikTok and AAVE flowing through TikTok in general. Unk is like a part of the common vernacular at this point. Like, I'm not actually Jason the Ween's real life uncle. but I call him my nephew. Okay? W nephew. W unc. He's not literally my nephew. Okay? Yeah. I cannot believe we're having any time. We're expending any sort of time litigating this. But that's the point. They make a big deal out of this shit, and then they push you to be on the defensive. And every moment that you spend defending the truth is another moment that they can chop away at the limited amount of time you have presenting a positive message. This happens all the time with like silly internet drama. It literally happens nonstop on the internet. And those tactics are being utilized in the political sphere, or they were being utilized in the political sphere, and now it's being utilized in the internet drama sphere. Because like this is how Oppo works. This is how manufactured outrage works. Okay? So why not address it one time and move on? Because the media is playing a formative role in this. The media constantly brings it up. That's it. That's it. America's most important social thinker on Auntie-gate.
I would say like 80% of ethnic groups are exactly the same. And everybody pretends, like everyone's like, oh, we're always late. We eat a lot. We have guilt. And it's like, that is everyone but WASPs, I think.
This is quite literally the last third of my current hour is like, that like everyone is the same because everyone says they value family and food. And they think they invented family. And we just like to get together. And it's not just family, actually. It's relatives, like
yeah. You know, a guy I thought was my uncle wasn't even related to me. It's like, most people are like that.
Or people are like, you know, we call her an auntie. I'm like, I'm familiar.
I do think that is probably just how much like WASP culture is like dominant in, but it's like they are the outlier.
Can you explain what WASP means? It means white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. It is the most domineering culture in America. It is the people that designed this country. It is the people that have shaped the culture of this country. This shit is just like Collargate. They're throwing whatever they can to see what sticks. It's like going forward, every Zohran post will have 20 bots posting about his aunt. Exactly. The Tish family put 1.2 mil against Mamdani. Meet the billionaire spending over six figures to stop Zohran from becoming New York's next mayor. From Michael Bloomberg to Bill Ackman. I know, we covered this already. Like, this is not irrelevant, okay? This is not irrelevant. This is a major, major issue. Billionaires see the popular mandate that a guy like Zohran has, and they want to stop it no matter what. This is not only like Collargate, it's every single Republican-bred narrative. I know, that's why I didn't bring that up. I brought up the Obama tan suit controversy, okay? The Obama tan suit controversy is perfect. Now, obviously, that wasn't an election controversy, but birtherism is an election-related controversy that was unimaginably racist. And while Zohran is still up in the polls, this is just early panicking, but it means something, okay? I'm not saying it's over. I'm simply saying that the very fact that you can literally just dial up Islamophobia to such a degree and actually yield results like this in a campaign that is utterly devoid of policy prescriptions. Because Andrew Cuomo's campaign, name one policy of Andrew Cuomo's. I can give you two, and I've been paying close attention, okay? And that's the only reason why I can tell you two key policy proposals. 5,000 new cops for the NYPD and making sure that Zohran Mamdani cannot live in a adjusted rent apartment unit, like evicting Zohran Mamdani and 5,000 more cops. That's it. That's literally not that's not a thing. It is utterly devoid of policy. It's just simply a Zohran campaign. And all of the Zohran initiatives up until this very moment have been an abject failure, with the exception of Islamophobia. The reason why he was able to cut the lead in some of these polls by 10 points is because Zohran is Muslim and he just keeps hammering the Islamophobia over and over again. And the more the uninitiated hear about that, the more the random people who are like, oh, there's a mayoral election, let me tune in now. The more they hear about that, the more they go, ooh, maybe this guy will do 9/11. Okay? That's it. This is the time where Zohran has to lock the in and just stick to the messaging. This is the most important part of his campaign in terms of messaging discipline. Coasting on previous popularity won't work at all, because this is where the actual voters are coming into play. The broad majority of voters who have not been paying too close attention to what the fuck is going on. This is where, if you live in New York, you got to get your parents and your grandparents to go out and vote for Zohran Mamdani. Okay? That's it. This is where you have to canvass extra hard. It's not a time to feel like Zohran is going to coast to victory. Okay? Not at all. You have to be playing as though he's down 10 points, not up 20. Okay? New York City Democratic mayoral nominee Zohran Mamdani holds a commanding lead over former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who is running as an independent, according to a poll released 1 week before Election Day. The 5-day Manhattan Institute survey, which closed Sunday, shows Mamdani leading with 43% of likely voter support, followed by Cuomo's 28% and Republican nominee Curtis Sliwa's 19%. Around 8% were undecided. This is a good poll that came out for Zohran, but it doesn't matter. There are a bunch of bad polls. Like, even in the bad polls, he's still leading by 10. But the very fact that Andrew Cuomo seemingly could cut 10 points into Zohran's commanding lead after not really presenting anything new or unique beyond talking about how Zohran Mamdani is a Mohammedan terrorist is a little worrisome. Okay? We haven't watched the Zohran Daily Show interview yet. Well, we will, obviously. Yeah, this was the bad one. Cuomo cuts Mamdani's lead by 10 points after Adams' exit. In a Suffolk University poll conducted around the same time, Mamdani's lead over Cuomo was more narrow, with 44% to Cuomo's 34%. Sliwa followed with 11%. Early voting is underway in New York City, and the ballot, which still includes candidates like incumbent Mayor Eric Adams, who have suspended their campaigns, cannot be altered. But the Manhattan Institute survey still asks voters about the hypothetical head-to-head matchups. Between just Mamdani and Cuomo, the gap narrows, but Mamdani maintains his edge, 44% to 40%. In a hypothetical matchup with Sliwa, Mamdani leads 47% to 33%. Mamdani has focused his campaign on affordability, proposing programs such as free buses, which he says would be paid for by increasing tax on the wealthiest New Yorkers and raising the corporate tax rate. He also is focused on crime prevention, saying the city has relied on police to deal with the failures of our social safety net. Despite Mamdani's commanding lead in the new poll, New York City residents are less convinced by some of his practical proposals. A majority of respondents in the poll oppose making all New York City buses fare-free. Asked to select the statement closest to their view, 58% agreed that making buses free for everyone sounds nice, but it would make things worse in practice. It would turn buses into rolling shelters for homeless people and drug addicts, invite more crime and antisocial behavior, and leave even less money to fix the slow and unreliable service. Except it hasn't happened in the pilot program. That's what's so crazy about it. Like, the solution to this fear-mongering is just simply to point to the pilot program that Zohran actually pushed. It was an immense success. A third of the respondents, meanwhile, selected the following statement. Bus service should be fast and free, universally accessible. Eliminating fares will make public transit more affordable and efficient for working New Yorkers while reducing conflicts between riders and operators. Asked about the fare evasion on subways, 60% of respondents said allowing the practice to go unchecked invites more crime and freeloading, while enforcing payment helps maintain order and safety. Only 30% said fare evasion is mostly harmless and should not be policed aggressively, and that enforcement criminalizes poverty. And you have to remember, like, fast and free buses literally already exist in other cities around the United States of America. That's what's so nutty about this. The working class is so right-wing, it's crazy. No, man. The working class is just heavily propagandized. In the absence of any sort of counter messaging from the left on issues such as this one, of course, the only thing they hear is stabbings happening on buses by crazy homeless people. And when they see homeless people on the street screaming and they go, oh my God, crime is out of control. What is fast? Buses with racing stripes and a spoiler. Exactly. Yeah, in ski towns, all public transportation is free all over America. Not a singular problem there. Yeah, because, you know, white people are going out to ski. Anyway, New Yorkers were more inclined to support raising the corporate tax rate on business at the state level in order to pay for new social programs. In New York City's 53% supported it, while 39% opposed it. Okay? It's easy to make someone more racist, but not more anti-capitalist. Yes, that is by design. Just like it's literally a million times easier to make people anti-Semitic rather than making them anti-Israel from an anti-imperialist framework. Okay? That's it. Americans are super duper tuned in to racialized messages. It's so easy to get them to be on board with an anti-Israel message by just simply being anti-Semitic. It's much easier to do that. Just like it's much easier to engage in Islamophobic narratives rather than try to make people pro-Israel or even pro-Jewish at this point, right? That false conflation is stuck in the minds of many people. How is he going to make the buses faster? He's just going to tell the people to put the pedal to the metal. No, fast and free buses means more buses, more bus lines. That's it. Yeah, they're gonna put racing stripes on the side of the buses. Yeah, bus lanes could be one way to do that. Dedicated bus lanes could be one way to do that, and having more buses as well. Also, when you no longer have fare to worry about at the point of entry, that also automatically makes the buses faster too. And also, obviously, the thing that we are refusing to reckon with here, which is racing stripes. Everybody knows racing stripes actually make cars faster. This was also another thing that I saw that people were like yelling about, which I think is really funny. This goes back to the classic, name one thing that Zohran has ever said that is remotely anti-Semitic. And everything that people find and everything that people point to is not anti-Semitic at all. And it's just a basic, accurate reflection of reality of Israel's relationship with like the American law enforcement, for example. Let's hear what Zohran is saying here. Okay. This is pretty bad. Really getting into Jewish conspiracy type stuff here, says Kathy Young. Soviet-born Jewish American gal, voice of reason against the madness, lover of otters, bulwark online, Reason Magazine, Newsday, etc. Let's take a look.
The importance for me of international solidarity is that it takes me out of the American political landscape and reminds me just how tame some of the things are that I'm actually calling for. And it reminds me of the necessity of grounding ourselves in the struggles as opposed to the fights around the struggles. For anyone to care about these issues, we have to make them hyperlocal. We have to make clear that when the boot of the NYPD is on your neck, it's been laced by the IDF. We're in a country where those connections abound, especially in New York City. You have so many opportunities to make clear.
Bars, by the way, is literally true. Hey, why the is there a Tel Aviv NYPD station, bro? Why does the NYPD have a headquarters in Tel Aviv? Why is it that the IDF, post 9/11, has trained virtually every single law enforcement precinct in this country, all the way down to goddamn Iowa, for counterterrorism initiatives? Why does Israel have a birthright program for cops? Not Jewish cops, just cops. Why? And when you actually bring that up, people go, wow, anti-Semitic much? It's like, brother, I didn't design this complex web, okay? Neither did you. I'm simply reflecting on the reality, and you're mad that I'm doing it. Yeah. There is a word for this kind of twisted fear-mongering and conspiratorial thinking. Anti-Semitism is Jonathan Greenblatt. ADL considered scrapping its U.S. police training trips to Israel, decided not to. After defending the program at the height of 2020 anti-brutality protests, the anti-racism organization is now admitting that an internal memo questioned their ethicality. The only bad thing about this clip is that he will answer now if pressed about it. Yeah, but that's not a bad thing. Because remember, Islamophobia works against Zohran Mamdani. But accusations of anti-Semitism, especially when he's simply talking about Israel, and any sort of reflection on anti-Israel sentiment is good for Zohran Mamdani. So if they actually hammer this point on, not to give any tips and tricks to the Zohran haters that are probably crawling all over this goddamn stream on a daily fucking basis, but anytime they bring up like that, he actually looks better because people go, wait, that is weird. You have, like, this is why I tell you all the time, like, some of the things that have been perceived as a normal part of American politics are actually insane to the average normie. When the average normie finds out that the NYPD actually works closely with the Israeli occupational forces, they go, what the f-? That's crazy. When the average normie finds out about the fact that in 38 states, you have to literally sign a promise note that you will never protest against the state of Israel to get a job, and you can be fired from your job for ever saying anything mean about a foreign state. They go, what the f-? Hello? You can say f- America all day, every day in these states, but you can't say f- Israel and retain your job. Isn't that crazy? It's true. It's literally f- true.